What is philosophy? The etymology, or the origin of the word philosophy, philosophia, is Greek, ancient Greek. And the word philo means love or admiration, and sophia means wisdom. So philosophy, etymologically speaking, means the love of wisdom. So what exactly is the love of wisdom? For example, in the Phaedrus, where Socrates, one of Plato's dialogues, Socrates discusses this idea. This is where this true definition is actually formally given. There's this idea that the philosopher loves the idea of beauty and not beautiful things. And so for Plato, in this dialogue and through Socrates, the distinction between the idea and the particular thing, and the idea is unchanging, and the particular thing is being phenomenal and changing and being a process of becoming, is a fundamental feature of philosophy. So people who study beautiful things study things that change and come and go. And for Plato, and it's we're going to get into this eventually, but distinguishing Socrates and Plato is its own sort of rabbit hole. But for the sake, we'll kind of conflate the two of them. For Plato, through the mouthpiece of Socrates, what is unchanging we can have knowledge of, but what is constantly changing we can only have belief or opinion about. So this was the notion of epistemology in philosophy, truly the beginning of how can we know what we know. So the love of wisdom is the philosophical drive to understand reality, understand truth as it is, and for Plato to specifically understand through reason the forms that are these transcendental schematas that everything else is a replication or an imitation of. So philosophy is the love of wisdom for its own sake. So there were many ancient philosophers that Socrates did not like, and in Plato's dialogues they are called sophists. So whereas the philosopher loves wisdom, the sophist is merely wisdom. And what the sophist does is they go to you and say, would you like to learn how to persuade and argue with your opponents? Perhaps you believe A and they believe B. Well, you could persuade them to believe in A. Essentially debating the art of rhetoric and persuasion. Socrates distinguished himself from that because he said, I never took payment, because the idea is he is doing it for its own end. Philosophy is its own end, it's its own reward. It itself is the activity arriving at the truth. And even then, to some extent, you might say, well, it's not even arriving at the truth, because the activity itself of this love of wisdom will lead us to an understanding of the truth, reality, beauty, justice, logic, the universe, the good, primarily for Plato. So we need this love of wisdom to love the ideas, because, as I said, beautiful things come and go, and the idea of beauty for Plato and through Socrates, it does not change. So philosophy is essentially the practice of loving wisdom. And this love is interesting because we're now getting into a kind of sentimentalism. Most of us think of philosophy as cerebral, very intellectual, and a kind of cognitive gymnastics, whereas what Socrates was saying, and Plato was saying it through Socrates and the Phaedrus, that it's actually a kind of love, and there is a kind of passion, a kind of ceaseless quest. The same way the lover always seeks to make happy those that they are in love with, the philosopher is always striving to understand and go beyond the very limitations that they have, and to truly understand wisdom as it is in itself and as an end in itself. So philosophy is the love of wisdom. It's the ceaseless truth. It's the ceaseless search for truth, and the philosopher nonetheless does not establish a first principle that he's already believed in. The philosopher must not say what the truth should be. The philosopher does not say what the truth could be. The philosopher loves wisdom as it is, and whatever that may bring us is what philosophy truly is. That's why when Socrates defined philosophy, he didn't define it as a particular goal. He said the goal of philosophy is a kind of recreational enjoyment of the pursuit of truth knowledge, beauty, and that those essentially culminate in wisdom, because there's a fundamental distinction between wisdom and beauty, and this is a very crucial idea that Socrates and Plato were very interested in. Wisdom is timeless, and knowledge can come and go effectively. What is seen as knowledge is often opinion and belief, and what is seen as wisdom is actually truth. So this is why wisdom is actually elevated above knowledge, because wisdom is seen as being timeless. Again, back to Plato's idea of the forms, the idea of beauty itself is unchanging, so therefore it is greater, versus the idea that the world itself is constantly changing, and that we therefore can't develop a true wisdom or timeless understanding of it. This is why Plato valued mathematics, because the idea is 2 + 2 is 4, seemingly universally across all times, whereas what is a good person, or what does someone understand to be how the world works, that is the true sort of opinion or belief. And for Plato, this form notion, or the idea, it's not an opinion, it's belief. And so philosophy is, for the early Socratic Platonic definition, is this ceaseless search for wisdom, and that itself is its own reward. So we're not philosophizing for money, because that would be a means to an end. The means of philosophy would be the end towards achieving money. This is not why we're philosophizing. We're not philosophizing for intellectual renown and intellectual fame and all these things. We merely do it because it itself is its own reward. So thank you, everyone. This is my first video. I have many more coming out. I wanted this just to be my first video, very introductory and very much a insight into what my videos will all be. I will subsequently have a series of videos on each philosopher, and as I exhaust each philosopher, I will start to do topical videos that will be about, for example, Aristotle's 4 notions of causality. So moving forward with the channel, I wanted to give a very brief introduction of what is philosophy for those people who are just getting into all this. So thank you, everyone, for being here. Make sure you follow me, make sure you like my video, and I appreciate you all. And let's get our journey started for the goal of the dancing philosopher.